Hey everyone, Chase here from the Cruiser Cult. Cheers to Saturday. Hope everyone's doing really well. Today we were going to talk about, for the Saturday Tech series, the classic issue of the vacuum solenoid going off on your vacuum actuated transfer case for the four-wheel drive. So as you saw in the previous clip, I can hit that four-wheel drive switch on the dash, but I cannot get it to go off. And what I ended up experiencing the other day when we were exploring off-road is one of my solenoids is bad. And this is a pretty well-known issue. And there's a fantastic thread on Mud that was started a long time ago by Randy88 FJ62, identifying a very cheap and simple fix for the problem. But first I want to talk about if you experience this issue where you're coming back off the trail and you want to get back out of four-wheel drive to get back on the highway to get home, and you notice that the four-wheel drive light is not going off. Now, I initially had this issue, but I figured out I could get around the issue by, at least temporarily, by switching the actual vacuum hoses here. So if you experience this issue in the field where the four-wheel drive light is not going off, and you confirm underneath the truck that the drive shaft is still locked, you can't turn it freely, that means that the transfer case is still in four-wheel drive, just swap these two hoses here on the exit ports on each of these solenoids, and you should be able to then go back in the truck and turn off the four-wheel drive. Now to turn it back on, you'll have to actually flip these again, but at least for a quick trail repair, you can switch these lines to get your truck back out of four-wheel drive. And yeah, so that'll get you home, and then once you get home, you can then repair the faulty solenoid. Now, usually it's the solenoid here on the bottom with the red plug. And yeah, we'll talk about the replacement part that you need for that and how to fix it. All right, so I took the part off the truck here. It's a 12mm bolt, and what you'll end up getting here is your solenoids like this. You don't want to turn that around here and undo the screws. This is all pretty crusty back here, so I took the opportunity to clean it up with some brushes. And honestly, anytime you're working on the Land Cruisers, and especially when you start dealing with some crusty old screws, it's always good to have the proper set of the JIS screwdrivers. These are the vessel screwdrivers. Definitely well worth the investment. They fit the screw heads perfectly, and especially when you're dealing with rusty screws that put up a fight, you have less chance of stripping out that head. So just a piece of advice there. Okay, so again, take off the red solenoid. This is the culprit here. And what you're going to want to, you'll notice here a couple differences. First, the mounting tabs to sort of install the new one. The original tab is actually narrower than this one. So what we'll end up doing is actually getting a Dremel here, and I'm going to cut this tab to the proper width there to match the original. And the electrical connectors here, we see that there's a little rib here on the plastic, and it's the new one, it's mirrored, so it's actually on the opposite side. And to make the original electrical connector work on the truck, fit the new switch, what we're gonna have to end up doing is filing off this rib right there. All right, so I got the solenoid swapped here. You can see I filed down the little groove, the mirrored groove here on the end of the connector. That took all of maybe 15 seconds of the file. I got out the Dremel. I notched the little metal tab there down to fit there, and remember to use the screw that it came with, the new one, because that's the correct size. The old one is now too small. But it fit there. I had to Dremel the tab maybe a little more than I thought to get it somewhat parallel with the other. It's still a little crooked. It doesn't fit in the bracket perfectly, but that's fine as long as it's functional. So let's go install it and see if this fixes my issue. All right, mission accomplished. So the new solenoid, not surprisingly, works. As you can see in the previous clip, the four-wheel drive light now comes on, and more importantly, it goes off. So yeah, big thank you to Randy88 FJ62 and I Hate Mud for figuring out this awesome little OEM part hack all those years ago. I think it was back in 2016 or so. You know, this is a super easy job. It took me maybe 20 minutes total from taking the part out with the 12mm wrench, and then grinding down the old, or the metal tab on the new solenoid, and also filing the little plastic connector with the file, and then putting it all back in. So super easy swap, and it's a really cost-effective swap. So the correct part for the FJ62 runs well over $100. This little solenoid runs between $15 to $20 depending on where you shop. So, you know, it's a pretty easy decision, and you're still getting a high quality Toyota part. So, you know, if you still have an all original FJ62 or another vacuum actuated transfer case Toyota like a 70 series, you know, it's probably a good idea. It's a $15 part to have it on the shelf just in case when that original one finally dies. And that's exactly what happened with me. I actually bought this extra valve back in 2016. It's been sitting on the shelf since. And sure enough, I knew this day would come, and it came, and I had the part ready to go. I didn't have to wait at all. But more importantly, if this happens to you on the trail, is to know how to get around that issue. And remember, just swap these two hoses here to help modulate the four-wheel drive, so you can actually turn off the four-wheel drive once you get off the trail and you want to get back on the highway and back home. And you always, you know, verify that if you're unsure the four-wheel drive is disengaged, just quickly, you know, reach your arm under the truck and give the drive shaft a turn and see if it spins freely. If it's still locked up, then it's still stuck in four-wheel drive. So, yeah, hopefully that was helpful for everyone. You know, thanks for the likes and the follows. We really appreciate it. We're having a lot of fun here at the Cruiser Cult, and it's been really fun to engage with everyone with lots of questions and comments. And yeah, cheers to Saturday. Today I'm drinking Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. This is a tried and true classic for me. I grew up in Northern California, so this is kind of the home area beer. So cheers. Delicious.